Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Hey Team Healthy, glad to be with you here on another episode of Unbound. This is the series where I take questions and comments from you, and I'm able to make remarks about them in such a way that allows me to kind of get a little bit more particular or specific in terms of some of the things that you're dealing with on an ongoing basis. Today, we're going to be talking about a phenomenon that there's not enough discussion about with respect to the narcissistic pattern, and that is narcissists are very easily prone toward depressive moods. Now, typically when you think of narcissism, one of the primary moods that comes to mind is their anger. They can get ticked off at the slightest provocation. They're annoyed and irritated easily. But I want you to see that when this is an ongoing, persistent pattern, there's something deeper going on down inside that, beyond just the anger. There's a depressive mindset that they're drawing upon. Now, I have two very strong illustrations of this where neither one of the narcissists that are identified would necessarily claim that they have problems with depression, but I want to see if you can figure out if that's really the case or not. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the first one. This person says, my brother is a bullying bigot who's not at all bashful about insulting anyone who doesn't think exactly like him. Ever run across somebody like that? And then this person says, I finally got up the courage to confront him about his anger and criticism. He went into a full rage, spewing all sorts of insults at me, going back to years old grudges. Do most narcissists hold on to grudges like this? He seems like such an unhappy person. That last comment there, that person is picking up on something that would lean towards in the direction of depression. Now, again, we can go back and say the prevailing emotion, or the most obvious emotion that we have here, is that narcissist anger. It goes into a full rage and spews insults and holds on to grudges. And that's incredibly common with the narcissistic pattern. Would you think of that as being an outpouring of a general sense of depression? Now, we have depression that can sometimes be biologically induced. Some individuals have a natural inclination toward that. But many times a person's depression is situationally induced, and it's an ongoing pattern that just allows them to stay deeper and deeper into that mindset, and they just bring pessimism. Let me give you some ideas of what we're talking about when we refer to a person of depression. I jotted down some notes. The depressed individual has persistent feelings of sadness. They have a loss of interest in common pleasures. They view life with pessimism. They have easy agitation and restlessness. They tend to have poor sleep patterns. That's a very large indicator. They're easily demotivated towards tasks that involve coordination with other individuals. They have many vague complaints about why they don't like whatever's going on in their life. They're prone towards anger and tension and general annoyance. And you can see that when you have someone like this person that's described as the bullying bigot, pessimism is just a chronic undertow with someone like that. And one of the things that we can talk about when we say that narcissists struggle with depression is they have the anger, but the anger is turned inward. In other words, they hold on to it, they keep it inside, they do nothing of a constructive way, and it becomes like a rot on the inside of their personality that begins to spread. Have you ever had an apple bowl? Let's suppose you have several apples in there and they've been in there for a little bit too long, and the apples begin to get brown spots on them and they rot, and the other apples next to them get brown spots. Well, narcissists are walking brown spots, if you will. They have a heavy sense of pessimism, and I'm hoping that you can understand, even though they're trying to say, you're my problem, you're the one that's creating my difficulties, they carry such a negative worldview that any attempts, like this person says, when I try to explain my concerns, any attempt brings out that natural pessimism. And you can see that narcissists are constantly just one little false statement or one false movement from you away from their own misery. That's their depression. It's their way of saying, I hate life, and it includes you, and rather than me doing something about it, I'm going to stay stuck in all the negativity that requires, and that's what you're going to get when you encounter me. So when you with this bullying bigot who's not bashful about insulting, he's probably a candidate for a depressive type of diagnosis. Now, let's go on a little bit further. Another person says, I dread spending time with my mother. She likes to be with my kids, and they enjoy her company because she dotes on them so much. And then here comes the big word, but. That means, okay, that's the introduction. Here comes where I'm really coming from. But it takes next to nothing to set her off. She's moody, bossy, and easily annoyed. She constantly criticizes me, and I get the sense that she has little respect for who I am. Why can't she see that she's such a Debbie Downer? Remember that person in Saturday Night Live? She seems to look for reasons to be miserable. Now, once again, we can see that we have a person that makes attempts with younger children to be nice, and it's interesting. Children can be a little bit more easily manipulated because they're more naive. But then with this adult daughter, it's like she doesn't make any pretense, constant griping and moaning and groaning and all the rest. Every person will bring a certain amount of emotional energy to a relationship. Now, some are very flat, but some people are very pleasant and friendly, and that's their emotional energy. Narcissists bring, and this person says they bring that Debbie Downer kind of a mentality. They bring a mindset that says, I'm just unhappy with life. I don't have good reasons to feel optimistic. If you hang around with me long enough, you're going to find that I'm a very pessimistic person. It's pervasive. It's deeply embedded in who I am. And as a result, it's going to be necessary for you to know what you're dealing with. When they come along and say, there's only one reason that I'm feeling miserable, and you're it. I'm hoping you can think, wait a minute, I see this better. You're stuck inside a depressive pattern. You've built so much of a protective shell around yourself based upon that lack of trust, sometimes bordering on paranoia. You've built this shell around yourself based upon negative assumptions, and you are unable to see what's good in other individuals. There can be plenty of good around you, but you just won't access it, or if you go into that space, it doesn't last very long because, like we say, it just takes that one little false move on the part of another person, and then here comes your negative outlook. And so they want you to think you're the problem when in fact it's anger held inward. Narcissists will spew outwardly their anger, but then they also suppress it. They go back and say, hey, I'm going to take that anger back, and they just say, I'm clinging to it. And in clinging to their anger and their bitterness, then it turns into contemptuous feelings. It turns into negative assumptions, and they're already going to assume something negative before you even give them a reason to think that way. That's their depressive outlook on life. And so the more you understand what you're dealing with, I'm hoping you can decide, rather than thinking, well, it's my job to come up with the right responses so they'll quit feeling that way. That's you taking responsibility for them. My response is, I'm sorry you have such a negative outlook towards life. In the case of this mother, she's constantly negative and griping and moaning and groaning. Can't she see that she's that way? And the answer is no. Narcissists are not prone towards self-reflection. In the case of that brother who's the bigoted bully, and he argues and will come back in a rage whenever you try to confront him. Again, that's his way of saying, I really hate life. I don't find much good in it unless somebody agrees with me totally. That's where they're coming from, and it's their way of saying, I quit on goodness a long time ago, and now you're just going to get the repercussions of that. The more you see their self-inflicted misery, because there are some things that they could do to pull out of it, but they don't, then the more you can remind yourself, their issues are not my issues. I have to contend with it, but this is why I have to stay separate and distinct, because I don't want that to bleed over and turn into my ongoing misery. I don't want to jump inside their game with them. So I hope this gives you some good awareness of what you might be dealing with. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. We're going to keep more videos coming towards you. Also, just know that if you have a need for therapy, and many times when you're connected with these individuals, that would be warranted. I've already mentioned in the beginning, I'm sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. Go beneath the link, and as the need is there to get somebody to help you sift it out, there's a whole team of licensed professional therapists that can help you. Also, I invite you to go to my website. It's filled with all sorts of resources. I have my courses that have at least 25 teaching videos with handouts and questions and all that guide you on anger games and the games narcissists play. This is me establishing your boundaries with them. Ready, set, connect, having healthy connections, free to be, finding your own freedom despite their control over you. And then in addition, I have my webinars, my articles, and my books. So we have lots of resources. Now, do you ever think of narcissism as being associated with depression? This is extremely common, and it's something that narcissists choose not to come to terms with. They just blame and they victim shame. You're the cause of all my problems. Don't buy into that. Just know they're troubled souls, and they love nothing more than to say, you're responsible for getting me out of my hole, and that's not your responsibility. If they're not going to do the work, then that's on them. So I hope that your awareness allows you to have more of a sense of steadiness, and you know that one of the things I desire for you is to have your true sense of peace. I want you to have peace despite their inability to join you there.